Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Flow. Alright, in this lesson, we are going to be talking about willpower, the power of leverage, and also time. So let's get into the lesson. Alright, for today's lesson, we are going to be covering pressure as leverage, willpower, and the importance of it. And we are going to go over one of our tools, the attention tracker. So let's start off with pressure as leverage. So you have to understand that pressure is your leverage. Pressure equals power. And it's something that helps you to complete stuff, to finish things. And Archimedes, he said that, give me a long enough lever and a place to stand, and I will move the earth. And that's kind of what pressure is doing for us. It's kind of like our lever, of our fulcrum, so that we can actually move things. We can actually get things done. And let me just give you an example of pressure here. So pretend that you are working on a term paper. And this term paper, say it's a big percentage of your entire grade. But the professor, he set a deadline for 20 years in the future. How likely are you to complete this term paper in, I don't know, say like 6 months' time? There's a high percentage of chance that you are probably not going to finish that term paper in 6 months. In fact, you are probably going to wait 19 and a half years until you start working on the term paper. So that is the power of pressure. With the tighter deadline, it gives you enough pressure so that you can start acting on it instead of waiting on it, instead of procrastinating on it. And yeah, so if you don't have like a tight deadline of sorts, if you don't have that gentle pressure, then you're never going to finish that term paper. You're just going to be sitting on beaches all day and just relaxing until 19 years later, and then that's when you'll start working on that term paper. So we need pressure to get shit done. It is an essential need. We must have it, or we won't get things done. And let me introduce you to Parkinson's Law. This is a concept that I picked up from Tim Ferriss in his book, 4-Hour Workweek. And Tim Ferriss, he's the author of the 4-Hour Workweek, 4-Hour Body, 4-Hour Chef, and this and that, and many other books. And one of the concepts in his book that he outlines is Parkinson's Law. And he gives a very similar example to the example that I gave. And he said that he had a final paper due. And for some reason or another, he couldn't get his research done until like the last 24 hours, right? So he had 24 hours to finish this paper of his. And so he thought to himself, I can't get this paper finished. I have to ask my professor for an extension. So he went up to his professor, who was the famous Ed Xiao, by the way, and he asked for an extension. And of course, he did not give him the extension. And so he had to put together a final paper in 24 hours. And after a grueling 24 hours and many, many cups of coffee later, he actually finished his final paper, and the final paper was about 30 pages. So he finished 30 pages of paper in about a day. And so you're probably asking and wondering about the quality of this paper. Tim said that this paper was one of his best papers that he ever wrote within the 4 years of his college. And in fact, he got an A on this paper. And so this is from Tim, and he says, Parkinson's law dictates that a task will swell in importance and complexity in relation to the time allotted for its completion. It is the magic of the imminent deadline. If I give you 24 hours to complete a project, the time pressure forces you to focus on execution, and you have no choice but to do only the bare essentials. If I give you a week to complete the same task, it's 6 days of making a mountain out of a molehill. If I give you 2 months, God forbid, it becomes a mental monster. The end product of the shorter deadline is almost inevitable, of equal or higher quality due to greater focus. Let me read that last part again. Is inevitably of equal or higher quality due to greater focus. Pressure equals greater focus. It is that pressure that compiles on us, that forces us to stay focused. All right, so we need pressure. And so let me give you another example. Say we're at work. We are working our 9 to 5. And so we have 8 hours to do our work, right? But because we have 8 hours to fill, we will fill in those 8 hours with work. But then say we had an emergency, something came up, and we had to leave the office. And we only had like 2 hours to complete our work for the day. Somehow, miraculously, we will complete our work in those 2 hours when this emergency happens. So, this is how Parkinson's law works. Whatever time we are given, we will fill that time with the work required to complete the task. And so the shorter the task, the more focus that we will get. And we will only stick to the bare essentials instead of wasting our time and being distracted by social media and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. So we will leave out all the fluff and just focus on what really counts when we have this kind of pressure. That's how important this law is. And this is also from Tim. He says that, number 1, limit tasks is important to shorten work time, 80-20 principle. And 2, shorten work time to limit tasks to the important. The best solution is to use both together. Identify the few critical tasks that contribute most to income and schedule them with very short and clear deadlines. Another thing about Parkinson's law is that instead of having that project in the back of our mind and worrying about it for months and months and months, if we had a tighter deadline, we would finish that project, and because we finished that project, we will no longer have that project in the back of our mind. So it becomes like a stress reliever. It becomes the sense of liberation if you finish that project and you finish that project sooner. So do the smart thing. Have a tighter deadline, add more pressure, finish it, and then free yourself from that mental monster. All right, so normal people on a project, this is like the normal projection. If given 30 days to complete a task, we will procrastinate for 29 days, and on the last day, we will cram and find and shove and pack the work into this tight time funnel, no matter what. But because we can do this, why don't we flip this on its head? Because the pressure of not getting it done is now far greater than comfort, right? In addition, this project will, again, occupy mental capacity, so we will be left with anxiety for 29 days and really thinking about the project. And it becomes this nagging little thought in the back of our mind. So let's flip this on its head. If we were given only 1 day to finish the task, could we do it? If we were given 1 day instead of 30, will we be able to do it? I mean, we are probably going to do it on the last day anyways. So we might as well do it in 1 day. And I believe that with enough pressure, yes, we can definitely finish this project. So this concept is known as the gun-to-head mentality. And let me give you another example of Gary Halbert. And Gary Halbert, he is a legendary salesperson. He's a legendary marketer. And he has been known to produce some of the greatest sales letters and marketing pieces of all time. Even people today, they look up to his works because he is such a genius at his craft. And there's a story that Gary likes to tell. And the story was about one of his low moments in his life. Like everything was going downhill for him. His business was down and he didn't have much financials in the bank and everything was just going downhill for him. So he was working on his marketing material and his wife, one day he told Gary, if you can't get this marketing stuff to work in a month, then you have to get a job because we really can't sustain this kind of lifestyle anymore. And so what happened to Gary was that because he had to get this thing to work, because he had no other choice but to make this marketing piece work, then that was when he produced his best work ever. And that marketing piece that he wrote within that 1 month was one of the most mailed out marketing pieces in history. And it has been shared many, many times by many marketing gurus and salespeople and these types of teachers. In fact, that single piece of mail, and back in the day, they used to use snail mail, right? So it was a direct mail letter. And that single piece of mail was mailed out more than 1 billion times. And so Gary Halbert, he calls this the gun-to-head mentality. And ever since that event, this is the type of mentality that Gary Halbert goes into every single one of his marketing material. And what this mentality is, he pretends that he has a gun to his head. And the mentality here is that if this piece of writing doesn't work, then I get my brains blown off. So I have to really pretend like there is a gun to my head. Like there is no other choice but to finish this piece of work and to make this thing work. And when you have that mentality, not only do you get down to your bare essentials, not only do you remove everything else and just focus on the important, but you also put in quality of work into it, and it becomes some of your best work ever. And so this is also going to be part of the action items. But let's move on to the micro pressure. So micro pressure comes in the form of our egg timer. Okay. And the egg timer kind of acts as a micro pressure, and you can somehow use it as a game. Try to think of it as a game. So say that you set your egg timer for 25 minutes. So you try to get something done within that 25 minutes. You try to beat the clock. Say for an example, we can say, okay, let's try to write 3 paragraphs of writing within 25 minutes. And so you are trying to beat the clock, and you're trying to make it a game at this point. And pretend like there's a gun to your head. Can you write 3 paragraphs within 25 minutes? I'm pretty sure that most of us can do this. And this isn't about working harder or more, it's about working less and reducing anxiety. All right, so let's cover willpower now. And willpower is like a muscle. It gets weaker after every repetition. And we only have a limited amount of willpower every single day. Whenever you make a decision, it actually fatigues your brain. So over the course of a day, our willpower slowly gets drained. Self-control is highest in the morning and steadily deteriorates over the course of the day. And this is from the book Willpower Instinct. And there are 2 books that I can recommend on willpower. Willpower and Willpower Instinct. I'll leave a link to both of those down in the resources. And so you want to imagine willpower like a battery. Pretend that you have unplugged your phone from the outlet. And over time, throughout the day, your willpower slowly gets drained and drained. And it might not seem like it, but those small decisions, they do make an impact. The more we use our mind and less minding power we have, willpower is like a fast twitch muscle that gets tired and needs rest. It's incredibly powerful, but has no endurance. The prefrontal cortex, that's responsible for focus, solving problems, short-term memory, depletes its energy over the day. Small decisions like what should I wear today in the morning, or what do I want to eat today, or what's the plan for today? Decisions like these, as small as they may seem, they will add up. And the mind doesn't know a big decision from a small decision. So you are leaking willpower every time you have a small decision to make, like what should I eat today? Should I eat this bagel or that bagel? You might not seem to notice, but it will drain your willpower. And by the time that it's afternoon, you have like no energy left. So by the end of the day, it will be substantially harder to get things done and do important work. The brain doesn't know the difference between a small decision and a big one. It takes the same energy making small decisions as it does making the big, crucial decisions. Like, how can I add the most value today? What kind of business should I run? Writing, designing, creating good creative work. To the brain, these decisions are the same as what should I wear today? So would you want to waste your brain power on something like what do I choose to wear today, or what should I eat today? Or would you rather allocate that resource into your best work ever? That choice is up to you. And I believe the latter is a smarter decision. Questions like these is like opening up 50 different YouTube tabs in Chrome browser and playing them all at the same time, and then trying to focus on editing a video on a highly resource-intensive video editing program, right? It's going to crash your hardware. Opening up all those different tabs, focusing on all those different things, making small little decisions left and right, it's going to crash. And you are using all of your mental RAM. It's going to have no more RAM, no more capacity for your creative work. So we want to save that as much as possible. And we want to direct that into our one thing. You're trading your energy for big, important decisions, for the small, menial decisions throughout the day. The less of these decisions you have to make, the more willpower and mental RAM you will have for the day. And let me give you examples. And this is a common example. So we all know Steve Jobs, right? He wore the same thing every single day. He wore the famous black turtleneck with the blue jeans. And it's not like he wore the same exact clothing every single day, but he had the same set of clothing to wear every single day, right? And he makes decisions like this because he wants to save on his willpower. He doesn't want to waste it on small, trivial decision-making things like what should I wear today, but he wants to allocate that into like how can we make Apple the greatest company in the world, right? How can we innovate today? And the same thing goes for Mark Zuckerberg. He wears the same thing. He wears the same shirt and the same hoodie. And so these people, they understand that decisions take mental energy. So they save their brain power for where it really counts, on innovation and creating and doing amazing technology for the world. It's kind of like the death by a thousand cuts. Like a small little cut, you're not going to notice. A small little decision here and there, you might not think that it's wasting willpower, but it is. And sooner or later, you're going to be bleeding of your productivity. It's the death of focus, all right? And let me give you a little example of a research they did on judges. So there was a research done on judges, right, court judges. And so they examined over the span of a 10-month period over 1,000 judicial rulings. And their decision was actually pretty simple. They wanted to determine whether or not to allow the criminal to be released from prison on parole. And over the 10-month period, you might think that these judges are very, very objective, right? Very noble. Because, we all believe that judges should act without any biases. But the funny thing is, there was a big correlation between their decision making and the time of day it was. And it turns out that in the morning, the judges favored the parole about 60% of the time. So whenever they would plead for a parole, they would favor that prisoner to be set on parole for 65% of the time in the morning. But the crazy thing is, as time went on, the judges were more and more decision fatigued, and that rate steadily dropped to zero over the span of the entire day. Because they were so fatigued in their decision making, and they became very moody, right, by the end of the day, then they would release these prisoners less and less. But the funny thing is, after lunch, the percentage went back up to 65%, and then dropping back down to zero at the end of the day. So here's a little graphical representation of this. Or before I show you the graph, the cases, regardless of the crime, like regardless of if they committed murder or rape or even small petty theft, the timing seemed to matter more than the crime itself. So that's how prominent that willpower can have on decision making. And here's a little graph to show you. So in the beginning of the day, they would have all of this willpower, they would be in a good mood, and they would have more of a chance to release these prisoners on parole. And then it would slowly start to go down. And then during lunch, it would spike up again and then start to go down again. And the same study has been done on fighter pilots. And fighter pilots, these are some of the most expensive soldiers to train in the military. And they also pilot some of the most expensive material that the military has to offer, right? Some of these planes cost northward of $100 million. And fighter pilots, they could see that throughout the day, their decision-making would get poorer and poorer, right? In the beginning, it would be really great, and they would make all the right decisions. But by the end of the day, it would seem that they would make the wrong decisions, right? So their judgment becomes more deteriorated over time. And so fighter pilots are the only pilots in the entire military personnel that are required to sleep at least 8 hours a day, because they know that their decisions will be fatigued by the end of the day if they do not get rest. And because they are in control of this $100 million piece of equipment, they do not want them to crash their expensive piece of equipment. And of course, their lives are on the line too. So that's how powerful our willpower can be, and how important the willpower decision can be. And in fact, commercial pilots also have a time restriction on how many hours they can fly every single month. In fact, I think most pilots, they spend more time on land than they do in the air, because commercial pilots, they know, or the commercial airlines, they know that if their decision is fatigued, then they have, potentially hundreds of lives at the risk of their hands. So they want their pilots to be as much rested as possible. All right, so how do we save some of our battery? How do we save some of this mental RAM? Okay, let me give you some strategies here, and these will also be included in your action items for today. All right, number 1, do not check social media in the morning. Social media is lava. Remember that game when we played when we were really young, where we pretended like the floor is lava? And so we would do whatever it took to avoid the floor, right? We would jump on the bed, we would jump on the sofa, we would jump from the sofa to the chair to the table, and we'd do whatever it took to avoid the floor because we pretended like the floor is lava. So you want to pretend here that social media is lava, all right? If you touch that shit, you will get burned, all right? So put that shit away. And I know that social media becomes a big distraction problem, but if you have to, like if your work revolves around social media, do not use it as a consumer. Do not use it to consume material. Instead, use it as a creator. Use it as a place of giving value rather than consuming things. So if you have to, if your work revolves around social media, use it as a creator and not as a consumer. So putting it away definitely helps. It seriously helps. It's like the old saying goes, out of sight, out of mind, right? You really want to put it away and put it on airplane mode and put it in some place where it's hard to reach, where you have a lot of obstacles to get to your phone. So you can put it in your drawer, or what I like to do is I like to put it inside my backpack, inside the inside compartment of my backpack, and zip it up twice. So I have many barriers in the way of between me and my phone. So put that thing away. All right, so email too. Don't check it in the morning. Do not check it when you wake up, please. And by all means, do not check social media or email during flow. That is the worst thing you can do. You want to maximize flow for as long as possible. All right, number 2, plan for tomorrow, today. I know I went over this during the flow calendar, but you want to list your daily action lists on the True North calendar the day before. Do it at the end of the workday. You don't want to do it in the morning because again, that's sapping your willpower muscles. Okay, you want to do it the night before so that the next morning you have everything planned out. You already know what you're going to execute on. So you just go there and just straight go and get into flow. All right, number 3, pick out clothes and meals the day before. Again, thinking about what you're going to wear or what you're going to eat is going to slowly deteriorate your willpower. It's the death of 1,000 cuts. Okay, and the meals we're going to cover extensively during Keto Week. But for now, pick out your meals before the day. So the night, before the day, at night before the next morning, or before the next day, I should say. And you also want to do fasting, because fasting also saves on our willpower. All right? Because fasting is simply not eating. And because we're not eating, we don't have to think about what meal we're going to eat or how we're going to cook the meal. And so fasting is incredible in its health benefits, but it also helps with our productivity because now we don't have to focus on food anymore. So we can just use that power we have to focus on our craft. Okay, here's a little clothes trick. So you know how Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, they wear the same thing every single day? Thing is, we don't have to wear the same thing every single day. You can save your willpower without sacrificing your style a little bit, without sacrificing your fashion. And I know this is a big one for girls because girls don't want to wear the same thing every single day. But you don't have to wear the same clothes every single day to save on willpower. What you can do is just pick out your clothes the night before. It's very easy. Very simple thing. But most of us don't do this, or nor do we think about this. But we can pick out clothes the night before. Just like the same concept with planning tomorrow, today, we are picking out our clothes the night before and not in the morning. Because in the morning, you want to save as much willpower as possible, right? It's like unplugging yourself from the plug and your battery is draining over the course of the day. You don't want to fire up a movie and play it on your phone. That's like picking out your clothes in the morning, right? That's because that's going to drain your battery. So pick out your clothes the night before. And this is number 4. Do your most important work early in the morning. All right, we talked about this yesterday. Do the most important work, the highest priority work that will get you towards your goal closer and closer first thing in the morning. Do your most creative work first thing in the morning. Don't be checking your email. Don't be working on design or anything that's filled with fluff. Focus on the bare essentials. Focus on what gets you towards that goal. So do the most important work early in the morning. So here's a little bit of what my schedule looks like. So first thing I do is actually meditate, and we're going to cover that in another lesson. But meditation, it helps with focus tremendously. And the next thing I do is I do a little workout. We're also going to cover that in another lesson. But what working out does, it activates your BDNF. It's your brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And it helps with a lot of focus work. And then I hit my one thing, the most important task, right? So I would do my content creation, or I would record my lessons like I'm doing now, or the thing that gets me closer to my goals and the thing that really helps to add value to other people's lives. So that's what I do. All right, your action items for today, your mission, should you choose to accept it. First one is do all 4 willpower saving activities. So like I showed you in the lesson. So you can just go back to that and just knock these things down. These take less than 5 minutes each, all right? And number 2 is start tracking attention. And number 3 is pressure stacking. So let's get into each one of these. Action item number 2, start tracking your attention. All right, we're now going to start using our attention tracking tool. And so again, this is like the concept of death by a thousand cuts, right? So what we want to do here is we're trying to avoid these small cuts. And let me get into the tool to show you how to use this. All right, so we are in the tool here, and this is the attention tracker, and it looks something like this, right? We have our week and our hours to the side here. And what we're gonna do, the main thing with this tool, is we are going to track where our attention is going in 30-minute increments. So how we're gonna do this is we're going to set an alarm or a reminder every 30 minutes, and then we're going to write down in this tool what we have been doing for 30 minutes. So you can do this with a reminder or with an alarm, or you can also download an app. I'll leave links to some apps in the resources below. But how we're going to use this is whenever the alarm rings, or the app rings, or the reminder, or the alarm ring, or if the alarm rings, whenever the alarm rings, pretend let's say it's 10 p.m. for this example, we're going to write down what we have been doing from 9:30 to 10 p.m. So when the alarm rings at 10 p.m., we're going to see, okay, what did I do the past 30 minutes? The reason why we're doing this instead of projecting our future is because more often than not, we're not going to do what we are going to say, right? So we're going to look back at the past 30 minutes. So say the alarm rings at 10 p.m. I'm going to look back at the past 30 minutes. Okay, what did I do the past 30 minutes? Oh, I checked social media, and then I'm going to write that down, okay? And you're going to do this the entire day, every 30 minutes. I know it might be a little bit of an annoyance, but this gives you such a big insight into where your attention is really going rather than where you think it's going. Okay, it's going to be a very eye-opening experience once you fill this out. And if you fill out all of these, right, on the right side, you're going to see a little key. And these are the colors that you're going to color in whatever the category is in the hour section. So the color green represents flow, and this simply means like flow or your deep work that you're doing, your one thing, main projects, habits, and etc. And light blue means like the positive stuff, like reading, learning, taking courses, etc. Yellow means like neutral, appointments, meetings, chores, and tasks. And red means negative stuff, like distractions, social media, TV, and pink is just sleep. So you want to color these into whatever category they fit under, right? So for this example, social media, that's a negative thing, red. So we're going to color that in red, okay? Just like that. And you want to make sure that it's the same color as this key. And please do not change this color in this key. If you do, it will ruin the custom script, all right? So if you do that, right, if you color in all the colors throughout the day, if you go down here, it will automatically calculate how many hours that you have put into each day. And you have to refresh this, by the way. And the only thing that makes it refresh is, ironically, it doesn't refresh by changing the background color. Okay, so if, say, for example, I make a change in the background, then it won't automatically refresh. The only way you can make this refresh is by making any other change other than the background color. So I can just put in an age here, and then look, it'll start to refresh, right? So distractions, I put it up here, right? 0.5 hours, 30 minutes of distractions. And so any other change, it will cause a refresh to happen. So you can just make any alphabetical or numerical kind of change, and it will refresh in the data. And okay, here's an important part. Make sure to put sleep from the prior day's day. So what does this mean? Let me give you an example, actually. So as you can see, the sleep is on top, right? And you want to put sleep from the prior day, because sleep has a big impact on productivity and your focus. Okay, so that's why you want to put sleep on top, because it will affect your entire day. All right, so you want to fill this out, and at the end of the day, you can fill in the colors. And so you can just go to the key on the right side and fill in the corresponding colors, and then you can get a sense of how many hours you are getting within the day. And on the right side here, you will see your weekly total. So you can see how many hours you put into each category. And so how we're going to analyze this, and we're going to do this twice, by the way, in week 1, just to have a gauge of where our attention is at. And then again at week 6 to see how much we have progressed in our focus power. So the main things that we're going to analyze is our flow hours. Our flow hours in comparison to our distraction hours. So you want your flow hours to be more than the distraction hours. So for this example, we had 4 hours of flow, but then we had 11 hours of distraction, right? So ultimately, by the end of 6 weeks, we want this number to be higher than the distraction number. And also, you can see a big correlation with sleep. And so you want to really start to look for correlations with this tool. So for example, let's say that I had like 8 hours of flow one day. So let's just pretend that this is 8. And then I want to see, wow, I had 8 hours of flow. How did I get 8 hours of flow? And you might see that, oh, it's because I slept for 8.5 hours. Okay, well, let's see other days where I had a lot of sleep and how many hours of flow that I got. And so you can see like correlations, right? So you can see like if I sleep for 8 hours, then I will have a lot more of a productive day than if I don't sleep for 8 hours. So you can find correlations like that. And you can also put in your REM sleep and your deep sleep if you want. This is optional, but you can see how that correlates within your day as well. And you can track this by using a sleep tracker on your phone, but a more accurate way is by using what is called an Oura ring, and I will go over that in the sleep lesson. But an Oura ring, O-U-R-A ring, is a very accurate way of tracking your sleep. And you can also put in your flow GKI, and GKI we're going to be covering in the health section, but you can also gauge what levels your ketones are at, and you can also write this down and see how it correlates within your day. All right, and you can also write any notes if you had, say, you had a great day, then you can say, I felt great today and then you can see the correlations again. So I had a great day, and then you can see the amount of sleep you had, amount of flow hours you had, and everything else. All right, that is it for the attention tracker. All right, so the attention tracker is really important. And again, it's a very eye-opening thing. Like when I first started, I thought I was very productive. I thought I was, being focused for most of the day. But then I realized how much I am being distracted by social media and any other glittering objects out there. So it really gave me an objective view on what my day looks like. And thinking where our attention goes is vastly different from where our attention really goes. So you want something to look like this. So in the beginning, you might be all over the place, right? You might be distracted by so much things. And so you might see a lot of cuts, right? Death by 1,000 cuts here. And by the end of 6th week, hopefully it can look something like this. So just those uninterrupted hours of just pure flow work, right? That mindfulness, that purely present and being purely in flow. You want to see a lot of those hours after the 6 weeks. All right. So I'll give you some links to apps you can use, or you can also use a reminder on your phone for every 30 minutes. So just do this out, or try this out for 7 days, all right? It's only 7 days, and it will be worth it. Even though you have to check your hours every 30 minutes, it'll be worth it. All right, action item number 3 is pressure stacking. Okay, we're gonna get extreme leverage on ourselves so that we take action, massive action. Okay, so pressure stacking. We're going to stack a lot of pressure on top of each other. Personal leverage, time leverage, social leverage, and financial leverage. So personal and time leverage, we kind of already did. So it's kind of the true north promise that we filled out. And time leverage, we already set a deadline for our one goal. So let's go over social leverage and financial leverage. So social leverage. First and foremost, we want to get an accountability partner. And it is better if you find someone who is close to you, or someone who you care about, or someone you respect. If you find someone you respect and you tell them about your goal and to keep you accountable, then because you really respect this person, you don't want to let this person down. So it plays a big psychological trick on your mind, and it really helps you to finish your goal. So ideally, you want to find somebody you respect or somebody you care about, because you don't want to let that person down. But if you can't, we also have a Facebook group just for this. So you can post on the Facebook group that you're looking for an accountability partner. You can either make a post on the Facebook group or you can directly message someone and ask them to be your accountability partner. Either way, please do this action item. It makes a tremendous difference in productivity. All right, so find anybody to be your accountability partner. And what you want to do is you want to send a weekly progress report. And you want to take a screenshot of the True North calendar and show them that you are actually making progress towards your goal. So you want to do something like this and send this to your accountability partner. So you want to take a screenshot of your weekly work and you want to show them that you are doing your habits, you are filling out your action item list, and you're putting in your flow hours, right? So you want to show them that you are actually progressing in your habits. Oh, and by the way, we are also going to be posting our True North calendar to the Facebook group at the end of 30 days, all right? So you want to be checking off those action item lists and you want to make your backgrounds green as much as possible because we are going to post those to our Facebook group. It's another form of pressure that we're going to put onto you. So just keep that in mind. All right, so the thing with progress reports, all right, so there was a study done that individuals with written goals were 39.5% more likely to succeed. So just by the fact of you writing down your goals, you now already have a higher percentage chance of achieving your goal than those who didn't write down their goals. In fact, 39.5% is a high percentage. But the clincher is this. Individuals who wrote down goals and sent progress reports to friends were 76.7% more likely to achieve them. This is almost double those of those who just had written down their goals. So if we write down our goals and if we send progress reports, we are way higher and we have a higher chance of achieving our goals than those who have not written their goals and who are not sending progress reports. So we want to do both of this so we can actually achieve our goals, all right? Okay, so yeah, I explained this one. So at the end of 30 days, we will post our calendars to the Facebook group and I'll remind you then again, but just keep that in mind, all right? So you want to be following up on your habits and your action items every single day. All right, action item number 3, financial leverage. And this plays in multiple parts. And this course actually can be seen as a financial leverage because you did make an investment in this course, right? So you want to get as much of your investment as possible. So that actually acts as a financial leverage. And actually there was a study done with a big online course platform. And so they had lots and lots of data, like thousands and thousands of data. And the correlation that they found was the more expensive that a course was, that an online course was, the more likelihood that a student will complete the course. And they found out that their highest price courses, I mean, these are courses that go up to like thousands of dollars, right? These $1,000 courses, they were the ones that had the most completion rate by the students and they had the most results from these courses. So there's a reason why courses and higher price courses will get students more results because of the financial leverage. It's because they have put in this much investment that I want to get my money's worth, that kind of psychology. And because in their head, they value that course a lot more because of the higher price. So it compels them to take action. And so that is why there had to have been a high price for this course so that people can actually take action. And it's getting them financial leverage. So I'll give you an example of, say, my experience with courses. So for example, let's say like I download like a free ebook, right? Like there'll be times where there will be an ebook that I'm interested in and they would ask for my email in order for me to download this like 70-page ebook. And so I would download these ebooks. But the thing is, I wouldn't read them. Like they would be sitting on my desktop for like the longest time, for like months and months at a time. And then one day I'll be looking through my desktop and I'll be like, what is this ebook here? Let me open this up. And I won't even remember what it's about. And then I will look through the ebook and I'll be like, oh, this is the book that I downloaded by giving them my email address. Oh, okay. You know what? I'm not really interested in this anymore. Let me just toss this in the trash. So it ends up going in the trash because it was a free ebook, because I didn't place any value on it. And even though that creator of the ebook might have put in, like 100 hours to creating that thing, like I didn't value it high enough, so I just placed it in the trash because in my mind it was like it's a free ebook, right? But the courses and content that I took the most action from were courses that I paid a lot of money for. For example, the highest paid course that I ever took was priced at $5,000. Right? It was a $5,000 course. And I have taken this course, at least like 5 times. All right? Because I was going to make sure that I got my money's worth. And because I placed such a high value on this psychologically, that I actually went through the entire course, not just once, but 5 freaking times. And so this course was the single, not just highest price course that I took, but the single course that I took the most times. And it was a fantastic course. I got a lot of results from this course. But it was also because I went through the entire thing that made me get results. So that's why financial leverage is of such importance. It really gets you to take action. If that course was priced at $5, I don't think I would have taken much action, to be honest. So it got me a lot of financial leverage. It got me a lot of pressure to take the entire course. All right, so for this lesson, the financial leverage that we are going to cover is very simple. So you can do this with a website. You can either go to stick.com or gofuckingdoit.com. So these sites, they're very simple to use, right? So what we're going to do, and here are the steps, and they both have similar steps. And the second one actually is a little bit easier because you don't have to actually sign up to do this. You just need a credit card. We're going to select a goal. So our goal, in this case, is sending our progress report to our accountability partner every single week. Okay, so that's going to be like our goal. And number 2, select our stakes. So what these websites they're doing is we're going to have a commitment of sorts. We're going to commit to a stake that if we do not achieve this goal, that we will have to pay to these websites. And so we want to select a stake, the dollar amount, and then we're going to choose a referee, which is our accountability partner. And then number 4, if we fail this goal of not turning in our progress reports, then we will pay that money. But if we succeed, we will not pay. So we're getting ourselves financial leverage. And here are some tips. So you want to select the dollar amount that stings to lose. Not too much, like you don't want to risk your rent money on this, but not too little. Or maybe you can risk your rent money on this because that will give you a ton of leverage, won't it? Because you will take action, right? So you're not going to be losing your rent money, right? All right, but you want to invest something that stings a little to lose. All right, so not something too little, but not something too much, but that stings a little bit. And you want to choose a weekly goal and show it to your partner, and show your partner your weekly progress. And it's only for 6 weeks. And the reason why we're showing a weekly goal instead of just like our main goal at the end of 6 weeks or 6 months, whatever you defined it as, is because if we just choose our main goal as the target, then we're not really compelled to turn in a progress report. And remember that study, it says that we are 76.7% more likely to succeed with our goals if we turn in progress reports, right? So it's compelling us to turn in progress reports every single week. But then if we select that bigger goal, we're not really compelled to turn in progress reports. So we want to attach this goal to our progress reports. So let me give you a little example of how you can use this. So say our weekly goal, this is our defined weekly goal. This is pretend. So we want 40 hours of flow hours, at least. And say we want to have at least 6 out of the 7 days completing our habits, meaning we have highlighted it green and we have accomplished the habit for the day. And at least one item checked off every single day. So that will be our goal, and our progress report we send to our partner. And so it can look something like what I showed you before. So it can look something like this. You can just send this to your partner, to your accountability partner, and you won't have to pay how much you staked. And let me just give you an example of what these websites can look like. So let me just show you Stick and gofuckingdoit.com. So here is Stick. And it's very simple, very easy to use, very intuitive. You can just put in your goal here. So you can just say, I will commit to completing my weekly progress reports every week. And same thing with gofuckingdoit.com. Just write down your goal here and you just complete the steps one by one. And by the way, for this goal, You don't have to do it every week, meaning that you don't have to go to these websites every single week and then put in a stake and then choose your referee and do everything else every single week. You can just say, for the next 6 weeks, I will turn in a progress report every week to my partner. And if you fail any of those weeks, then you get to pay. So you don't have to do this once every week. You can just set it for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever you want to set it as. So you can do that one time and just set it and forget it. Okay, so week 1 cheat sheet. It looks something like this. So no social media in the morning. Social media is lava. You want to keep fasting. And there are tons of health benefits to fasting. So you can keep it as no breakfast, but you can drink tea and coffee with 0 calories, nothing else added in. And if you want to fast forward to the fasting part, you can always do that at your own time. So you want to keep fasting, and we want to track attention every 30 minutes. For the next 7 days, you want to track your attention every 30 minutes. And you also want to use this flow ignition strategy that I have discussed in lesson 3 to really get you inside and the entryway into flow states. So you want to use that. And at the end of the day, plan tomorrow today. Plan tomorrow's action items today. And so you can also, plan your food and your clothes. Pick out your clothes at night and also pick out your food at night. So that's week 1, a little cheat sheet for you there. And remember, gun to head mentality. Imagine you had a gun to your head and you must complete these action items, or else the killer will shoot you. I guess they are not a killer yet, I guess, unless you die. But the person, they will shoot you and blow your brains off. If you can't imagine this, if this doesn't get enough pressure for you, imagine that the person, instead of pointing it to your head, points it to somebody you care about, points it to a family member, points it to your daughter's head. And then they say, if you cannot accomplish your tasks for today, I'm going to kill your daughter. That will get you some massive emotional leverage. So really go at it with that mindset and just get things done. All right. And remember to always focus on the 80-20. Focus on the 20 things that will bring 80% of the results. Focus on the bare essentials. Focus on what is important. Stop inventing things to do to avoid the important. Stop pretending like, I got to work on my book design. I've got to work on the structure of the book. I've got to pick out the right paper for my book. Just focus on writing. All right, stop inventing things to do to avoid the important. And so let me leave you off with a little story, this miracle of pressure. And this comes from Jim Kwik. He is like the memory expert. He teaches people how to have better memory. And he gave a little story about one of his students. And one of his students, her mother was diagnosed with cancer and she only had a month to live. And so the student, because of the incredible pressure that she had on her, she read 1 book a day for the next 30 days. Anything that she could find on cancer, because her mother had cancer, she would read the book and she would try to implement it onto her mom. And 6 weeks later, the student contacted Jim, and she told Jim that her mother was able to live because of all the information she got from the books, and she was able to turn her mother's life around because of the incredible pressure that she had on her mom. She didn't want her mom to die. So you might see pressure as a bad thing, but it's really not. There is greatness in pressure, and there is miracles in pressure. It can really get us to do big things in our lives. Some things that we have always been putting off for can really create enough pressure to really transform our lives and to turn it around. And it can be a miracle moment with enough pressure. And so life is pressure. Even the finitude of life, this entire thing, consciousness, it's pressure. And I think it's put in there for a reason. I think time has an importance in our lives, and time, having a limited amount of time, has its purpose in our lives. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, the famous physicist, he gives a great example. And he was doing an interview with Larry King. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, he said that he doesn't want to live forever. And Larry King said, well, why would you not want to live forever, right? And Neil said that it is the pressure, the time, the limited amount of time that we have for life that actually gets us to do things, to do interesting things. He said that if we were all immortal, and if we all had everlasting life, then we wouldn't have that pressure to create focus in our lives. We wouldn't have pressure to do anything in our lives. Because if we have all the time in the world, I mean, why should we do anything? We're gonna live forever. And plus, if we knew we were gonna live forever, we would try to avoid accidents as much as possible, right? So it would get us more lazy than ever, because we wouldn't go out of our houses because we would be afraid of getting into accidents. And so life is a pressure, and I see it as a very elegant thing. I see that time pressure as something to be valued, because without it, we really wouldn't be doing anything. We really wouldn't be getting things done. And so that's how I like to see it. I like to see that there is beauty in pressure. That time, that life, that universe, whatever you want to call it. Put time there, and that time serves as a purpose for us to start acting, for us to start creating, for us to start expressing ourselves. And because of this amazing thing, this miracle thing called time, because of this component, we now have the power to express ourselves. Not at a later time, but right now. Because the power in expressing love, in expressing gratitude, that power is multiplied when you do it in the now. Meaning, don't love later, love now. Don't give later, don't save it for another day, give now. Don't become grateful at another time in your life, be grateful now. And that is why it is so miraculous to be in the present moment. And I believe that time is what makes life beautiful. Not the infinitude of it, but the finite part of it. It really creates us to blossom in our life instead of just standing still, instead of just not being inspired to do things. So it's a big miracle. Life is truly a miracle, and let's be grateful for it every single day. And if we are grateful for the time that we have and the time that we have right now, then we will do things, and we will start to take action. Then we will start creating. We will start becoming the best version of ourselves. I'd like to leave you off with this quote. It's by Horace Mann. It says, "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity." Please be creating, be adding, be giving, and be grateful every single day, my friend. So that is it for this lesson. I hope you have learned a lot. Take massive, massive action, because our time is limited. And go get it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.